Hello again, everyone. It's me, Johnny. I want to thank you for checking out my channel. And today I want to talk to you about toxic relationships and knowing your self-worth. This is a topic that came across I was having some conversations. I was hanging out with some of my friends, and the conversation came up about relationships. And throughout the conversation, the question came up as to, Johnny, why are you single? And I wasn't upset by it. I wasn't caught off guard by it. It didn't bother me that they asked me. But I kind of like took over the conversation after that the whole night. And I wish I had a camera at that time to really record what was coming out of my mouth, because I know it helped them. And I know there's people that are suffering out there in toxic relationships. And the people that were gathered around me that night were women. And I was kind of giving them some insight of what I want in a relationship. And being in a toxic relationship, you have to know your self-worth. And when you're in a toxic relationship, you have to set boundaries. And for me, number one is I choose to be single. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I can be content just being by myself. All right, I'm not a needy person. I don't really need someone in my life. I'm just fine all by myself, and I'm comfortable with it. And that's one of the main reasons, because I choose to be. But I also went into one of the reasons why is that I refuse to sacrifice my own happiness at the expense of someone else's misery. I refuse to engage in that. I refuse to be a part of that. I refuse to let go of my standards and be a part of something where somebody is so miserable, they'll try to bring you down, you know. And for me, I really don't have no time for that. And when it comes to that, is you have to sacrifice, or you become numb to this other person being miserable, and you allow those things to carry on in a relationship, and we just keep on going through the cycles and keep on going through the motions. I refuse to be a part of that. I also gave him another one, is that another reason why is I refuse to sleep next to somebody I'm not in love with. That's just the way I see things. I think this life is precious, and for me, I have different viewpoints, you know, that when you're just going through the motions in a relationship, and what I mean that is that, you know, after the relationship is dead, you tend to go through the motions, and we just stay there. Why? Because we're comfortable. When we're comfortable, we're afraid of change, so we accept the abuse, or we accept the lower standards of a relationship instead of setting boundaries on how we want to be treated. And that all starts with the mind, on how you see yourself, not how somebody else sees you. It's more important how you see yourself, to hold yourself to those standards. And it's something that I learned along the way, because I have my, I have my tussles in life and in relationships, and I said I never want to expose myself to another relationship again. So I'm more happy or more comfortable. I'd rather be by myself instead of being in a toxic relationship or an abusive relationship. I'm just not going to have it. Another point that I made is I refuse to be in a relationship where it's so toxic when you go into the bedroom that you spend the night sleeping on the edge of the bed and hoping, trying to get so comfortable on the edge of the bed where you don't fall off. And that's a miserable place to be at, when you have a king-size bed, but yet you choose to sleep on the edge, trying to make yourself comfortable. That's not a place to be. I've been there, done that, got a t-shirt for it. It's cool. I learned from it, so I don't make the same mistakes again. Another point I want to make that I made that night, I refuse to be in a relationship where I hate to go home. That is probably the most miserable feeling, one of the most miserable feelings or miserable points in a relationship to be a part of, is that you hate to go home. I've been there. Like I said, I've done that, and I refuse. I set my standards a little higher on how I view myself, rather than subject myself to something like that when you're living in a house and not a home. There's separation. To add on to that, I refuse to be a part of a relationship where I feel alone, or you feel by yourself. There's no communication. Basically, you go out to dinner, or you go to vacation, or that's another point. Or I refuse to be in a relationship where I want to go on vacation, but I want to go by myself because I want to get away from the person that I'm with. And when that starts to happen, how can I say this? Life lesson number one: Before you leave a relationship, your heart is already gone. Your heart's checked out, chances are, a long time ago. But because we're afraid of change, we stay in the relationship and we deal with it. Going through the motions, knowing that, number one, it's not healthy for you. It's toxic. You're suppressing your immune system. You're not sleeping very well. Chances are your diet isn't right. You become irritable because we refuse to face the pink elephant in the room. But you know what I've learned? Is that a lot of times, all our friends know about what's going on in a relationship except for our partner. They have no clue. Because we lost that communication, that pipeline. And when that starts going awry and you're not refreshing it and you're into something in a relationship where it's at the end when you start doing that. Because it's a matter of respect talking to somebody. And before you know it, rather than dealing with the pink elephant in the room, you let it go on so long where Ringley Brothers and Barnum's Bailey Circus shows up. And the theme song to your relationship is Send in the Clowns. Then you leave that relationship, you head to another relationship, and the same thing goes on. It's like the same circus but different clowns. Then you leave that relationship, go to another one, it's the same circus but different clowns. All right? Or a different clown. It's the same thing, and what those relationships all have in common is you. Or me. I'm speaking for me. So I decided to wake up and say, no, I'm not going to do this no more. You know, life lesson number 2. If you have to manipulate someone to keep them, then you already lost them. Life lesson number 2, I'll go over this. This is critical. If you have to manipulate, to keep someone, then you already lost them. If you have to, life lesson number 3, I'll say this. If you have to lower your standards to be with someone, then it's time to go. For me, I refuse to lower my standards lower than what they are, and I refuse to live in a toxic environment or in a toxic relationship with somebody who really doesn't respect me. Because being in a relationship, it's about respect. You give and take, but it's about respect. It's about loving that person. It's about giving and sharing, not about it's all one-sided. Because when you don't set boundaries on how you want your partner to treat you, you're going to feel lonely, you're going to feel depressed. And for me, I went through breakups where, I just not packed up and just left. I just knew it was time to go, because you have that impression in your heart that this isn't it, this isn't working out. And sometimes you get so bogged down or so much in a relationship that you really, really tend to, stay longer. And it's not a very healthy place to be in. And, when you start setting boundaries on how you want people to treat you in a relationship, you live a much happier life. You live a much better life in abundance when there's a mutual respect between two people. Versus that, you're belittling your partner, you're talking down to them, there's arguments, or sometimes there's silence, which is worse. When you're in a relationship and there's no communication, you come home and you go right on the internet, go watch TV, and you try to numb the pain, because it's easier for us to sacrifice our happiness because we're comfortable and we're afraid of change. We're afraid to pack up our stuff and leave, not knowing how things are going to turn out. And I don't know how many times in my life I've done it where I didn't know how things were going to turn out. But every time I did it, it's kind of let you know how my life was going, right? Every time I did it, I landed on my feet. I went through my struggles, went through, what I had to go through, but I always landed on my feet. And going through a cancer journey really made me wake up and set standards on how I want to be treated, or how I want to communicate, and who I want to date. I have my goals in life, and that's very important. Those are one of those life decisions that you really have to deal with. Education is one, school, your career path, and one is who you marry. That's life-changing. That is life-changing, one of the most critical decisions you're ever going to make in your life. So I refuse to be in something that's dead. And these are some of the things that I've learned on my road to recovery. I hope these points help you and help you grow from it. And if this is you, you're going through something, then set your own boundaries. Really spend time with yourself and learn who you truly are, because you truly are fearfully and wonderfully made. And if that person doesn't love you, I think the worst feeling in the world for someone is that when you treated somebody like crap and you ripped them down and you did whatever to destroy them emotionally, mentally, trying to control them, manipulate them, and they walk out on you. And then you see them later on down the road with someone else, embracing, and they're real happy and you're still miserable. Oof. Because she really didn't matter to you until you seen her in somebody else's arms and she was happy. Fellas, if you really, really, really want to catch a woman's heart, if you learn to, or capture her heart, if you learned to kiss her heart, you'll capture her soul. If you learn to kiss her heart, you'll always capture her soul, the essence of who she truly is. And when you have someone like that, don't ever let them go. And when you find that, because you're all wired to love, don't ever let that person go. Well, this is it. I'm going to end it here. God bless you guys. Thank you guys for watching my videos, and thank you. And remember, there's one point. You're alive, but are you really living the life that you want to live? The choice is yours. Abundance comes from the inside. Don't look for somebody to give you something. It's already in you. Everything you need to do to win in life is already in here. You have to learn how to be quiet and learn to listen and be still. God bless you guys, and take care.